Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we are talking about Men in Black. Released in 1997. Directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Written by screen story by Ed Solomon. Screenplay by Ed Solomon. Based on a comic by Lowell Cunningham. And starring Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, Linda Fiorentino, Vincent D'Onofrio, Tony Shalhoub, and Rip Torn as Zed. Stu, so I saw this in the theater. I was, I guess, 13 going on 14, I think. And I could not wait for this movie. This was like one of those summer blockbusters. It was like a tentpole summer film.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on vacation somewhere. This is the first movie I remember. So, a little backstory, I guess. We were on vacation somewhere. My dad used to always read USA Today, and he would, the hotels we'd stay at would bring the paper and like leave it by the door, and he'd have it in the morning type of thing.
Right.
And I remember being in a hotel and him showing me the review for Men in Black, and it was the first movie that I had ever seen in a newspaper. Not that I read that many reviews, but I was interested in movies, and so I probably did read some stuff. But anyway, it was the first movie I remember getting like a perfect score. I think USA Today gave 4 stars back then. That was like their top score, and it got 4 stars. And I just was like, oh my God, I cannot wait. And so I saw it in the theater and thought it was amazing. Loved it. What about you? Did you get to see it in the theater back then? You would have been pretty young. You did? Okay,
I
good.
did. I was 7 years old when this came out, man. My mom took me to a late show to see this movie. Not too late, but later than a 7-year-old should have been out.
right.
It was like 9 o'clock. I should have been like winding down for bed at that time.
Yeah.
But I've always loved Will Smith ever since I was a little kid. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is one of my favorite shows of all time, and a good chunk of movies on my top 100 list are Will Smith movies.
Nice.
But yeah, this I have always loved this movie, and this is another movie like The Mummy. We discussed that before. This is another movie that has grown. My love for the movie has grown as I have gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the newspaper you read? USA Today?
USA Today, yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah, USA Today was right.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I didn't look up the Rotten Tomatoes score for it, so I don't know how other critics felt about it. But I feel like it was, well, again, I mean, the internet was fairly new at the time, so really we were still based on, we were still like relying on newspaper reviews and stuff. But I feel like a lot of the reviews were pretty positive back then. But again, didn't have access to that many.
Right. That was back when the internet made noise.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Took you forever to get on. And if somebody picked up the phone. Right.
You couldn't be on the phone and on the internet at the same time. That's crazy to think about.
I know. So, I loved it. I bought the soundtrack. Couldn't stop listening to the Will Smith Men in Black song.
Yes, sir.
That's
one of the greatest samples ever. I love that he used that sample.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and this was Independence Day came out in 96, right?
Correct.
So this was just a year after Independence Day. Independence Day, I think, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that was the movie that launched him into movie stardom. And that was
some people would say Bad Boys.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Bad Boys launched him into movie stardom, like that kind of like, I won't say a trans, because he did 2 or 3 movies before Bad Boys, I think.
Yeah.
But that was the one that was like, okay, that was the one that made people take Will Smith seriously.
Right. Independence
Day made him a bona fide movie star. Like it put him up there with Bruce Willis and like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and all that. Like that, Independence Day was that one, and this was the first movie. Men in Black was the first movie that he did after he was a bona fide movie
action star. Yeah,
action star. Yeah.
I forgot about Bad Boys, but you're right. And Bad Boys, I think, and granted, I was too young to see Bad Boys when it came out. But Bad Boys, I believe, did well enough to get a sequel. but I just remember Independence Day being a huge success.
Oh yeah.
And so
I saw Independence Day in the theater, but I don't remember that one quite as much as I remember this
one
theater experience. I was maybe like 9 or 10 when I saw Bad Boy. Still too young to watch it, but
but
whatever.
Still, I did not see Bad Boys until I was in high school, and I think it was probably because I'm trying to remember when
Bad Boys 2 came out.
Yeah, Bad Boys 2 I think came out after I was out of high school, but I was going to say maybe I watched the first one because I knew the second one was coming.
Yeah, I think Bad Boys 2 came out the summer of 02. Might have been 02 or 03.
Yeah,
so I think it was 02.
I graduated high school in 01. So either I watched Bad Boys after high school or I am, maybe I'm just misremembering, but but I definitely saw it later. So for me, it was definitely Independence Day I knew of Will Smith because of Fresh Prince as well.
Right.
But Independence Day was definitely the big Will Smith movie that made him a movie star in my experience, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then this movie just solidified it. Yeah. Because the other thing about Independence Day is it's kind of an ensemble film. Will Smith is one of the three leads, I would say. Whereas in this movie, he is definitely the main character. And yes, Tommy Lee Jones is his co-star, who is the second lead. But the movie is
it's told from him his point of view. Yeah,
exactly.
And even in Bad Boys, the first Bad Boys was actually Martin Lawrence's movie. And he got to pick his co-star, and he was nice. A fan of Will Smith. He was like, he knew that he was transitioning in the movies, so he was like, I'm gonna put him on, and kind of set the table for him so he could eat, and it worked so
very well. Yeah.
Because the franchise became his after that.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep. That's another series that we need to do is the Bad Boys movies.
Yes. I'm very much looking forward to doing the Bad Boys movies. I like all three of those. But yeah, this movie is very near and dear to my heart. It's got so many memorable lines, and Barry Sonnenfeld is one of my favorite directors because I like his sense of humor.
Yeah,
it's silly, but it's very tongue in cheek. He plays slapstick straight, and it's hilarious.
Right. I also really like Barry Sonnenfeld's visual style. He was a cinematographer turned director, I believe. And his movies are like, I feel like it's almost unfair to compare him to, but it's like they're kind of Tim Burton-esque, He's got that somewhat surreal kind of feeling to his films. Like he also did, the Addams Family movies, and they have kind of that spooky, but it takes place in the real world, but it's kind of a real world that's slightly different than ours. And that's kind of similar with this, it's all the New York stuff and everything, all that feels very real. But then you go into Men in Black headquarters, and it's, these like weird chairs when he's there for the interview or the test and everything.
He got a distinct visual language for sure.
He does. Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. And I think he was the perfect director for this film.
I agree. He is a little like Wes Anderson in his visual style. He has a lot of scenes, more so in Men in Black 2, but he has a lot of scenes that have like symmetry.
Oh yeah,
and kind of look like a storybook almost.
Right.
So I would say he's like a little bit of a blend between Tim Burton and Wes Anderson.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment, I think. What has Barry Sonnenfeld done lately? I can't even think of what the last
lately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know he did Wild Wild West, which is a guilty pleasure for me. I know it's not a good movie. I love it though.
Right.
He did RV, another one of my favorite films, of severely underrated Robin Williams film.
Right. I never saw RV actually.
You should watch it. You'd like it.
It looks like he kind of went on after RV to do a lot of TV. He did a couple episodes of Pushing Daisies. I wouldn't be surprised if he did like the pilot.
That makes a lot of
Pushing
sense.
Daisies.
That explains why I like that show so much.
Right, yeah. He directed Men in Black 3, of course. He did a movie called 9 Lives. It looks like it's about a cat. He did 10 episodes of the Netflix version of a series of unfortunate events. And then 6 episodes of Schmigadoon, which I believe is on Apple TV Plus, another TV show. So I guess he
did The Tick,
yes. The Patrick Warburton Tick.
Yeah.
Oh, did the
no, that was that's the Patrick Warburton is the one from the 90s, I believe.
Right.
He was the executive producer of the newer one.
Gotcha. Yeah, he didn't direct any episodes for it though, it looks like. But yeah, he did do the Patrick Warburton Tick, which I loved. I actually have
He did? I didn't know that.
I did. Yeah, I have it on DVD somewhere. I actually never really watched the new one.
I heard it was pretty good.
Yeah, I did too. So yeah, I guess he's kind of just moved on to TV stuff. His last movie, I think, was that 9 Lives movie I said, and then before that, it was Men in Black 3. Tommy Lee Jones was the perfect choice to play K in this film. Whoever had the idea to pair Will Smith with Tommy Lee Jones is a genius.
A genius.
Because Will Smith is very big. And Tommy Lee Jones just plays it so... He's very funny, but it's just so dry and straight that it's such a perfect balance. Like, one of my favorite moments in the movie is, when Will Smith is yelling at Kay about the flashy thingy. He's like, you're going to give her brain cancer or something. And then they're walking out and he goes, have you ever flashy thing me? And he goes, no. No. He just says it so matter of fact. He's like, no,
I'm not playing. Have you ever flashy thing me? No.
I thought it was so great.
Oh man, yeah. Tommy Lee Jones, acting legend. I'm just to echo what you said. Perfect partner for Will Smith in this movie. The cast in this movie is great. I love Rip Torn, who has one of the coolest names ever.
Yeah.
And I one of my favorite scenes is when Will Smith first gets to the Men in Black headquarters, and he's taking all these tests and trying out, and they're taking this written test, but they don't have a flat surface to write on.
Right.
And it's so funny because it's just still shots of them trying to take this test without a table, and there's no music, but it is so funny. And then the kicker is when he slides the table over, making all of this noise in this quiet room.
And the table is so loud.
Oh, it's so loud. It's almost unbearable, but it's so funny.
I was watching it last night down here in this room, and my son, it was asleep upstairs, and I had the movie, the volume was up kind of high because they were talking. And then as soon as he starts moving that table, I was like, oh, I thought I was going to wake up the entire house. I was trying to mute it as fast as I could. So loud.
And again, there's so much dry tongue-in-cheek humor. I got the scene on right now that him and Kay are walking down the hall, and he was like, when was the last time you had a CAT scan? He was like, oh, about 6 months ago. You should probably get another one.
Right.
And they just played it so straight and just casual conversation, but it's so funny.
There's a lot of scenes like that. When he's showing, he's basically kind of showing them around the headquarters, and they're looking at the objects, and Will Smith accidentally knocks the glowing ball of energy or whatever it is, and it just goes around the room. I love that scene too, for Will Smith's reaction when it goes into the lab and it's just breaking all of the glass, and he's like, oh.
He's like, I'm gonna pay for that. I'm gonna pay for that.
That's amazing. But then or Tommy Lee Jones catches it, and he's like, this caused the blackout in 1970, whatever. And he was like, he thought it was so funny. It's just it's just great. Every little, all the little aspects of this movie are just fantastic.
No, absolutely. One of my favorite things, and I say this a lot for movies that we talk about, but it's one of my favorite aspects of filmmaking, and that's Chekhov's gun.
Mm-hmm.
What Barry who wrote this movie again?
Ed Solomon.
Ed Solomon. One of the things that Ed Solomon does is with the movie's villain. So, Vincent D'Onofrio, who another acting legend who has done every kind of genre you can think of. He's the villain. He's a alien cockroach, and bugs love sugar. So he asks his wife for sugar water. And then later in the movie, they go, J and K go to the house to talk to his wife, and she gives them lemonade, and Will Smith spits it out. And it took me until I was an adult to realize what happened. It's sour because he ate all the sugar. I was like, that is genius.
That's awesome.
And it's so subtle. It's such a perfectly written scene. It's a perfectly written joke that it's small, but if you're paying attention, it's so funny.
Right. Yeah. I think, you mentioned Vincent D'Onofrio, and I was as I was watching it last night, I feel like his performance is Oscar worthy. It's so
absolutely
good.
Absolutely.
Number one, and he might have, I think he's got a little bit of makeup going on, but he is unrecognizable. You see him in the beginning of the film for half a second as his regular human self before the bug takes his body. But for the rest of the movie, he's, a bug in this human. It was like very uncomfortable, obviously, in this human outfit. And
like the skin doesn't quite fit.
Right. And he's having trouble walking and stuff. And there's one of my favorite moments is when he's walking. I think it's after he kills the two guys at the restaurant, and he thinks he's stolen the galaxy. And I think it's that scene. And he's walking down the sidewalk,
down the street,
and there's a guy, and he just kind of goes like that. He just kind of does this arm move towards him.
Yeah.
And it's such a small thing, but it cracks me up every time. I did it last night while I was watching the movie.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. I did it along with him because it's just one of my favorite moments. And
like, hey, how you doing?
Right. And just the way he talks and everything,
his cadence is so broken up because he's trying.
It's one of the best performances in the movie. I think the casting was spot on. Getting Vincent D'Onofrio to play the villain in this movie was just perfect, and he just does a fantastic job with it.
I'm again just echoing what you're saying. He does a fantastic job. Everybody in this movie understands the assignment. They do exactly what they are supposed to do. They understand what kind of movie that they are making, and they know they know how to make it funny. The comedic timing in this movie is perfect. Just everything that we've mentioned before is just the timing, and the fact that they're playing it straight makes it so funny. Even Will Smith, who is the biggest personality in the movie, even he is playing it straight for the most part, straight for this type of movie,
right?
Because he's not necessarily being silly, but his reaction to this new world that he's been introduced to, with where aliens are real and are commonplace amongst us. His reaction is realistic, but he plays it up in such a believable way and still manages to make it so funny. It's just like I said, everybody understands what they are supposed to do, and Will Smith shines so bright in this movie.
And I do love his we get his reaction of realizing that something is off, or seeing something unbelievable twice. The first time is when they go visit Jeeves, I think his name is, played by Tony Shalhoub, and Kay shoots his head off, and Will Smith immediately is like, "Put your hands up, you're under arrest," because he thinks he just murdered the guy. And then you hear Jeeves start talking, and his head starts growing back, and the camera pushes in on Will Smith as he kind of is realizing that this guy's not dead.
Yeah.
And his reaction is perfect. And then again, when they're at MIB and he's like, he thinks Kay is just insane. And he's like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to go. And Kay's like, I'm going to get some coffee. You want some? And he like kind of pokes his head in the coffee room and he sees the aliens pouring coffee and stuff. Yeah. And again, he's just got like this look on his face, like, what is going on? And he could have, like, he's such a big personality in the movie. He could have played that up and been bigger about it. But it's a perfect kind of almost subtle, just dawning of like, what am I seeing? And he played it perfectly.
There is power in subtlety. Whenever people talk about good actors, people tend to think about them screaming and yelling and crying and cussing.
The big performances,
that's cool. But knowing what not to do and when not to do it is also powerful acting. And that is a perfect example of that.
Yep, I agree. My wife and I were just not to get off of Men in Black, but my wife and I were actually just talking about a similar topic tonight about how we were talking about the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and how Tom Hanks won the Oscar for it. And I don't know if Denzel was nominated or not, but we were talking about how good Denzel's performance in that movie
believe he
too.
was.
Okay,
I think he was nominated.
And then that made me think of Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. You know, everybody talks about how good Dustin Hoffman is in that movie, and he is. He's very good. He won the Oscar for it. But Tom Cruise, I feel like, is always overlooked, and Tom Cruise's performance in that movie is amazing. Tom
Cruise. The reason why Tom Cruise is overlooked is because he's become an action star.
Right.
In his earlier career, like he was a real serious actor. Not saying that he isn't now, but his movies in the latter half of his career are so big that they kind of overshadow his more dramatic performances.
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping once he's going to get to I assume he's going to get to a certain age where he can no longer do the big Mission Impossible stunts and stuff.
You sure about that?
Yeah,
we just got another Indiana Jones.
Well, that's true. That's very true. So I could be wrong, but I was going to say I'm hoping as he gets a little older and is, I guess, potentially unable to do some of these big stunts, that we do get some more dramatic performances from him in some. But those types of movies aren't getting made as much either. So who knows? But we'll see.
They're getting made. They're just not in the theater.
Well, they're getting made for streaming services and stuff.
Yeah, like that.
He's not really interested in.
Right. They're on Netflix and Apple TV Plus. There's a scene where they're going after this guy who is not supposed to leave New York.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out why he's leaving, which is another very, very funny scene. And it's actually an important scene, but you're so distracted by the comedy that you forget that you're not even thinking about or listening to the information that's being given in the scene.
That scene is amazing. It's a great visual gag. The effects don't quite hold up, but again, this was 1997. CGI was still fairly new. So it's very forgivable, but it's this part cracked me up as a kid. And actually, I think the part that makes me laugh more now is when the scene is over and they get back in the car. Tommy Lee Jones goes, "Is anything about that unusual to you?" And then Will Smith is like,
Will Smith just looks like,
"Are you kidding me?
Like, are you serious right now?" Like, I just had a baby squid throw up in my mouth.
And attacked by a tentacle.
I just delivered a baby squid.
Yeah.
Also, this movie is very well paced.
Yes.
At no point in the movie is there a slow moment. It has its ups and it has its downs. Its peaks and its valleys within like the plot as far as action and comedy is concerned. But it's very, very well balanced. At no point in this movie have I ever wanted to turn it off, or did I ever feel bored?
Right, or like wanting to skip a scene or something.
Yeah. Like, it is very, very well balanced and very well paced.
And it's only 98 minutes, so it's not it's not a super long movie. So it's you're right. Especially like once Will Smith is recruited, they get, because the very first assignment is basically the guy trying to leave New York.
Right.
And then Tommy Lee Jones realizes something's kind of fishy. And from there on, it's just learning what's going on? There's a bug in New York, and then they, so they're trying to find a galaxy. It's like, it's very, boom, 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 boom. It's actually, it reminds me, there's a video that I keep seeing on TikTok of Trey Parker from South Park, and he's giving, it looks like some sort of screenwriting class.
Yeah, I know.
And he talks about how if your script is this happens and then this happens, he's like, it's boring. Yeah. It needs to be this happens, therefore this happens, or this happens, but this happens. And this movie, I feel like, is very much this happens, therefore this happens kind of thing.
Right.
And I think it works really well. Ed Solomon is a writer that I follow him on Twitter. He also co-wrote the 3 Bill and Ted movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done a number of other things. But this movie especially just kind of proves that he knows how to write a good movie.
Absolutely.
Was it you? So we've watched this movie before for Nerd Talk or a live stream or something, I forget. But and I can't remember if it was you or somebody else on the stream, but Vincent D'Onofrio's wife, the way she talks, I love her.
Oh, it was me. It was definitely
you?
Me.
So you don't like?
It was definitely me because I hate the way she talks. I hate the northern accent, and what I mean by northern is like far up north, like by Canada up north. Because I'm from Ohio, but nobody in Ohio talks like that.
Right.
That's like Minnesota, Green Bay, like oh my god. You know what you ever seen Bobby's World?
Yeah. The mom, don't you know?
Yeah, the mom, don't you know? Oh my god. Oh, I want to throw up just saying it.
My favorite line of hers, and I'm, it's probably going to bother me repeating it, but it's when she goes, Edgar, your skin is hanging off your bones. She almost like mumbles her lines, but it's just, it works. She's I don't know if I don't think that's how that actress, like, she might have the accent, but I feel like she kind of ramped it up a little bit.
I think that is how she talks, but I think you're right.
And I feel like it was, it's kind of like, I don't remember which episode I talked about this, but Benicio del Toro in Usual Suspects, how he knew his character was in this. I don't want to spoil the movie, but he realized his character was only in the movie for this one specific purpose. So in order to kind of make his character memorable, he gave him that iconic voice that he's got, the mumbling speech and everything. And I kind of feel like that's maybe what she did in this movie. She's like, I'm only in this movie for 2 scenes, but I kind of want to stand out. And so she did the voice, and it really does. It stands out.
It really does annoy me.
She made him a memorable character. Well, it really does annoy you, but it makes her a memorable character, I think.
It's like nails on a chalkboard, man. I can't stand it.
I know one aspect that we have to talk about is the score. Danny Elfman's music is just, again, phenomenal. I think I've used that word several times now to describe a lot of this movie. But I love the opening credit sequence, how it gives his music, time to shine. And he created fantastic score for this film. And it goes along so well with Barry Sonnenfeld's visual aesthetic. And I don't think, I'm sure somebody else could have done a fine job with this movie, but Danny Elfman was the perfect choice to score this film.
It's very subtle. It's very subdued because it's got that like secret agent feel with the bass riff, the doo 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 doo. Like like that.
Boom 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 boom. Yeah.
It feels noir and sci-fi at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. I love it. It's one of those scores where I don't usually kind of think about it when I think about Danny Elfman and like his great scores, but then I listen to it and I'm like, this is so good.
And watching this movie made me want to revisit the cartoon because they do that a lot, especially in the 90s. A movie would come out and then they would adapt it into an animated series.
Yep.
This is one of the few that was really good. The Men in Black animated series was really good. They had a Godzilla animated series that was actually better than the movie.
I believe that because the movie was not very good.
No, it wasn't. That series was like Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Oh, cool.
Pretty much.
I don't remember that, but I also was in high school when Godzilla came out, so it's possible I just was not paying attention as much to the Saturday morning cartoon type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember seeing, I never really watched it, but I do remember seeing the Men in Black animated series being advertised at least and stuff.
Yeah, it's on par with the movie as far as tone and the type of humor.
Nice.
So yeah, it's pretty good. And all of the supporting characters that are in the movie or that are in the movie are in the show. So the worms are in the show. Frank is in the show.
Nice.
Zed, obviously.
Right. Frank is the pug, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When Frank is introduced, that's a great moment too, you know, when they pull up and he's like, that's the worst disguise I've ever seen, thinking it's the creepy dude right next to him. And then Frank is like, if you don't like it, you can kiss my butt or whatever he says, you know. And
another one of my favorite scenes is when they go to the farmer's wife's house and they use the deneuralizer on her and Kay gives her a new memory. And he's like, so you just use that flashy thing on her and it erases her memory. You just give her a new one. He's like, yeah. And like, that's the best you could come up with.
Right.
So Jay he goes into great detail. He was like, matter of fact, you kicked him out. Right. It's all right, because you're gonna go down to Bloomingdale's and get you some nice dresses and hire a decorator in here because
right. And that's when they go after that scene, they go to the morgue where they learn that the Corellians or whatever those two guys have been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And Kay eventually flashy things Linda Fiorentino's character. And when they're leaving,
that's tells the second time that he's done that in the movie.
And that's what he goes, did you flashy thing me? But when they're leaving, the like cleanup crew's coming, he's like, she needs a new memory. And I think Jay gives him a look or something. He goes, make it a happy memory. And this is where we learn of the galaxy. To prevent war, the galaxy is on Orion's belt, which is a great little, clue / mystery. Yeah. Because, I was watching.
Once you hear it, it's stuck in your head for life.
Right. And when you first see the movie, you think exactly what they're thinking, that it's Orion's belt, the constellation that we're all familiar with. Right. But, upon rewatch, when you know what they're actually talking about, I was watching the movie and Barry Sonnenfeld was smart because he doesn't try to really hide it. However, right after the guy gives the message and dies, it cuts to the cat, but the cat's laying down, so you can't see the collar or anything.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty smart. I mean, because the cat it seemed like it was sad that its owner just died.
Yeah.
But it was also kind of showing us Orion without letting us know that it was Orion, I guess, So I thought that was kind of pretty good, pretty smart.
No, it's a perfect way to build a plot twist, because screenwriting proverb, you don't give the viewer 4, you give them 2 + 2, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I love the little alien. There is a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of, but there is CGI in this movie, but there's still some practical effects too. And that little alien, I think, is practical, and he might have some CGI enhancements, but I just love that little practical alien as he's trying to get out his last words before he dies, Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, what is word?
Another great scene that has great practical effects is when Jay accepts the offer to join the MIB. Every alien in the lobby is practical.
Nice. That's cool.
I was watching it the other day and I was like, every last one of these aliens would have been CGI if it was made today. Yeah. That's another reason why this movie will be timeless. Like it's not a movie that everybody talks about all the time.
Right.
But I've never heard anyone say anything negative about this movie.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, I don't know anybody who dislikes it. I'm sure there's people out there. I could look it up on Letterboxd.
There has to be some people that don't like it.
There's probably, it's kind of funny to me. If you go to Letterboxd and look at least on my phone, if you look at any movie, it'll show you, how the majority, how like everybody, the average rating, I guess you could say. And if you kind of hold on like the tallest column, it'll show you like 68,000 people gave it 4 stars or whatever. There's always, even if it's only like a few hundred, there's always somebody who gave it half a star or 1 star, you know. It doesn't matter what movie it is.
They troll it.
That could very well be. But so I'm sure there's 1 star, half star reviews for this movie, but
there are also people that rate their movies very, like, I don't know if this is a word, but binarily. Like, they either give it a 5 star or
it's a half star,
or 1 star or a half star. It's like I either I like it or I don't. I'm like, movies are too nuanced. Yeah. Most movies are too nuanced and layered and difficult to make to rate it like that.
Yeah, but I personally don't know anybody who thinks this is a bad movie.
Right.
It is. You're right. It's not a movie that's talked about very often. It's not like a movie that I see very often in people's top 5 or top 10 lists. But it is, I think, a pretty universally loved movie.
No, absolutely. I agree. It may not be a classic all-time movie, but it's definitely classic for the 90s.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a very 90s movie, but in the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny to watch Tommy Lee Jones in this movie because this was 2 years after he played Two-Face in Batman Forever, which could not be a more different performance than how he plays Kay in this film.
Yeah, he was so over the top is an understatement.
Yeah. I loved it as a kid, but as an adult and somebody who kind of understands the character of Two-Face a little bit better, he was just playing the Joker.
Yeah.
Like he was not really playing Two-Face. He was playing the Joker wearing Two-Face makeup.
Pretty much. And I love the look of like the headquarters and the technology in the movie. Like, I really love the look of their guns. Their guns look sick.
They're awesome. I thought it was so funny as a kid when he gets handed the noisy cricket,
noisy cricket.
And he's like, what? It's like, I feel like I'm going to break this thing. And then you see him shooting it, and it just keeps sending him flying backwards and everything, which is fantastic.
He's like, you get a Series 4 deatomizer, I get this little midget cricket. And in the animated series, he puts a silencer on it.
Oh, really?
And it's still pretty powerful, but
Rip Torn, when I was reading the Invincible comics, this was before the animated show ever was even a thought. There's a character named Cecil Stedman who's kind of essentially the Zed of like that agency that kind of oversees superhuman beings or whatever.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. When I read the comic, I always read that character. I heard his voice as Rip Torn's voice. I just thought it was perfect for that character. When the animated series came out, they cast Walton Goggins, who's a fantastic actor, but it just was not how I heard Cecil Stedman in my brain. And it took me a long time to kind of get used to his voice coming out of that like face.
Yeah.
But Rip Torn, I think, is awesome in this movie as Zed.
He is. He's not in the movie a whole lot, but he's very cool.
Yeah, he is. He's got an amazing voice.
Yeah.
The last suit you'll ever wear.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger.
I like how Will Smith imitates him saying that line as they're like walking out of the building, and Kay just looks at him, and he's like, that was Zed. Yeah. Humorless Kay. Another one of my favorite subtle jokes is when, again, Kay is showing Will Smith's character around the headquarters, and they get to those 2 aliens that are kind of working the like main desk in front of the main view screen, and he goes, "This is blah, blah, and Bob."
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's one of those things where it's like it's almost like a throwaway line. It's so fast, and they don't even really like acknowledge it or anything. It's just I love that type of stuff. This is blah, blah, and Bob.
They're also in the series too. Like
nice.
all of these little side characters who you don't think anything of, they all show up in the series. So
Universal Studios in Orlando has a Men in Black ride, and the Q area is like walking through the main headquarters of Men in Black. And so you see they got like little animatronic versions of those aliens sitting down there. You're walking like on a walkway above them, but they're down below kind of working the computer or whatever in front of that screen, which I think is cool.
That's funny.
Yeah.
We also get a little bit of K backstory, just a small amount. He once had a wife or a girlfriend at least.
Yeah, or somebody he wanted to have be his girlfriend because he was supposed to be delivering flowers to her, or I guess maybe picking her up for a date or something.
Yeah.
Made the wrong turn down a old country road or whatever he called it and ended up being at the I'm surprised they didn't just neuralize him, but I guess they recruited him. But he ended up being there for like first contact or something with aliens on Earth. Back in was it supposed to be like the 50s or 60s or something?
I believe it was when was the World's Fair?
1939, 1940.
Well, it definitely wasn't that far back.
Yeah.
Kay's not that old.
No. 1964 World's Fair?
That might have been it.
That was probably it.
Yeah.
I've been to New York.
That though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been to New York once, and I don't think we ever went to Queens, so I never got to see I will always just think of them as spaceships now, because that's what this movie basically said they were.
Yeah.
But like part of me really would like to go see those in real life. I assume they're still there. I don't, but where the World's Fair took place and everything,
What are they? I always assume that they were spaceships. I mean, obviously not real ones, but
right. I have no idea. Like I said, I don't. Trying to see. Here it is. The observation towers. Oh, they're just they're observation towers, I guess.
You just go and observe?
I guess you can go up and walk around up there or something. I don't know. But yeah, I will always think of them as spaceships because that's what this movie said they are. This movie basically says that anybody who is very talented and essentially famous is basically an alien. So it's like Steven Spielberg, when they show the screen,
Spielberg, Sylvester Stallone,
George Lucas, who else is on there? Michael Jackson. I can't remember if it was this movie or the second one. That's a 2.
He has a very funny cameo.
Yeah. Dennis Rodman, they mention at the end of the movie. I forget who else is on the screen, but it's a few celebrities and stuff. And so, yeah, anybody who is basically really talented and, or Michael Jordan might be one of them. I can't remember, but yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Basically taking away all hope for any of us to, to excel.
Yeah. I really like the third act when, Vincent D'Onofrio's character, does this character have a name?
Well, I guess it's just Edgar.
Edgar?
Yeah, because that's the human's name.
The alien doesn't have a name.
I don't think so. They just call him the bug or a bug or whatever. Okay. Yeah.
So Edgar has got the galaxy. He's gonna hop in one of those spaceships and take it to his home planet, and they have to stop him, obviously. And I love when he eats Kay's gun. Kay is like, you keep him on this planet. I'm going to get my gun.
Yep. That whole sequence is amazing.
It is. Like when it starts, like they shoot the ship and it comes crash landing, and all of that is practical. I was like, they would never ever do that today.
No.
I mean, obviously J and K are in front of a green screen, but the crash itself is practical.
Yeah. That's an iconic moment too in the movie with the two of them shooting those large guns at the ship. And the CGI of the bug is not great by today's standards. But the whole scene it still just works because of Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, especially Will Smith's character after Tommy Lee Jones gets eaten by the bug and he's trying to keep him from climbing up, and he just keeps like talking to him and keeps getting like thrown from 6 feet away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he finally figures out how to stop him by stepping on the bugs that are on the ground.
Yeah.
That, and then he's stalling him, and then you hear, it's a great moment. You hear the gun start to power up, and you realize that he's about to shoot his way out from inside. It's awesome.
And it's perfect because you almost forget that he he ate K.
Right.
And then when you hear the gun, when you hear the guns start up, it's like, oh yeah, he's still in there. Right. And then at the very end, they recruit the chick that worked at the morgue.
Yeah, Linda Fiorentino's character, who's I don't remember what her name is either, but she's the one. She's not a bad character, and she's not a bad actress, but she's like the one. I guess she's just so kind of outshined by Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, and Vincent D'Onofrio that she's like the one kind of forgettable character, and she's not even in the second movie, I don't think. So
she's not, but they allude to her character,
talk about her.
Yeah, they say why she's not in the movie.
Gotcha. But yeah, they do end up recruiting her at the end because Kay. That's the one thing Kay talks about is, he's like, I wasn't recruiting a partner, I wasn't training a partner, I was training a replacement. And so he gets his memory zapped, and that's another thing I love about this movie is the hot sheets that Kay calls it. He just goes and gets the supermarket tabloids, and which is all the ridiculous stuff, but it's the best investigative journalism in the country or whatever, or on the planet, according to Kay. And then he ends up on one because, man wakens from 35-year coma or something like that. But we get to see him reunited with the woman that he loved. So that was, a nice touch.
Yes, it was.
Happy ending for Kay.
She finally got those flowers.
That's right. Even though we know there's a sequel and he comes back. But still, it's a nice... If there was no sequel to this movie, that would be a very nice ending for Kay.
Yeah. The car. We forgot to talk about the car.
The Ford POS. When I was a kid,
technology, and we cruising around New York in a Ford POS.
When I was a kid, I just assumed that was the model of the car. Like I didn't put together what he was saying, really. Because I was definitely not like a car person. Still am not really a car person. Yeah. So I was just like, okay. I didn't realize it was a joke. I like the car's great. It's one of those Chekhov gun kind of type moments. Never touch the red button. And then later on, they got to touch the red button.
Of course, they're going to touch the red button.
You can't introduce the red button and then not touch it, so.
Right.
That's a great moment where he, I think aren't they listening to Elvis or something? And and Jay didn't put his seatbelt on. So he's trying to right himself, and he's got the socks and the shoes. Kind of looks Elvis-ish. It was a great little visual gag.
He's like, you do realize Elvis is dead, right? He's like, no, he's not. Just went home.
Right. I don't think we've said anything negative about this film. I think this movie kind of falls into that category of perfect movies in terms of what it sets out to achieve and accomplishing that goal. So for me, it's a 5-star movie. I can't imagine giving it anything less than 5 stars. It's just a fantastic movie it's a movie that I could, I've seen this movie a dozen times, and it's a movie I could still put on and probably watch from beginning to end without, like you said, there's not really a scene that I would want to skip, or there's not a moment where I feel bored watching it. It's perfectly paced. It's perfectly cast. Perfectly scored, it's perfectly shot, it's perfectly directed. It's a 5-star movie. I can't deny it.
Well, you said everything that I was going to say.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, and we've discussed it on the podcast before. Certain movies have certain goals and certain objectives, and it achieves all of those goals. It is a very self-aware movie, perfectly paced. Great music, great cast, great leads, great supporting characters, an interesting story, and it just keeps going. And it's just there is not other than dated CGI with Edgar, because even the CGI in the beginning of the movie with the alien with the head on the stick, that looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
When he was running towards the park ranger,
right?
That looked pretty good.
Yeah, what a great introduction. We didn't even talk about that scene.
Yeah, we didn't.
But that is a great introduction to this world. That's even before we're introduced to Will Smith. We just are introduced to the Men in Black. We we see that aliens exist and like how they deal with the aliens. We were introduced to the neuralizer and all that stuff. I mean, it's a great introduction.
Within the first 5 minutes of the movie, we already know what kind of world it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, everything you said and then some. Is it a classic all-time movie? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. I mean, there are no 100% perfect movies, but this is one that comes pretty close.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
1 out of 5 stars.
Hated it.
5 neuralizers out of 5.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Men in Black. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave us a comment on our Instagram or tweet at us. Both handles are at Cinema Heroes. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below what you think of the movie. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell your friends about us. We'd love to hear from you however you want to reach out. But I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.